Thank you for tuning into CAN TV. My name is Stephanie Rios and I'm a staff member here. Today we're going to be talking about the Centro de Trabajadores Unidos, and to talk to us about this organization we have Ana Guajardo. Ana, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Ana, to get started, for those who don't know you, can you give us a little bit of information about who you are and what you do for the organization?
Yeah. I'm the Executive Director for Centro de Trabajadores Unidos Immigrant Workers Project. I'm also co-founder of the organization in 2007 when we founded CTDU.
And can you give a bit of an overview of what Centro de Trabajadores Unidos does?
Yeah. We're a community organization that is housed in the southeast side of Chicago, and we do primary labor work. We help workers in our community who experience wage theft or any form of labor abuse in the workplace. We help them with their cases on an individual basis, as well as more of a community. If there's a group of workers who are willing to hold their employers accountable, then we actually launch public campaigns. But we also do a lot of work on immigration, in particular informing our immigrant community that the rights that they have in this country, whether in the workplace or in their homes. And at the moment we're actually moving on worker cooperatives, which is something to be mentioned later.
Now, let's just dive right into it. You mentioned worker cooperatives. I thought when I saw that was a program that you had, I found it to be very fascinating and, more importantly, very necessary nowadays. Can you talk a little bit more about what that is?
Yeah. With the support of the Chicago Community Trust in 2013, we were granted a grant of a fellowship. I had the opportunity to go to Mexico and visit Frente Auténtico de Trabajo, and so I met this organizer who gave me a tour to visit many cooperatives in Mexico. And given that here in Illinois, as well as the United States, there are several cooperatives that have started, we've been having internal conversations as an organization for several years of how do we sustain ourselves given many budget cuts, in particular when we had a new administration and we lost our citizenship funding. And so we actually began to look that into a little bit more seriously. And as of 2 years, we've been training and assisting immigrant workers to be able to learn what a cooperative is and to be able to actually start them. So we're actually incubating now 2 worker cooperatives as well as a social enterprise.
Nice, I love that. Kind of reminds me of the whole teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime, and instead of giving them a fish. So that's why I found that particular program super fascinating. Another thing, I'll be completely honest with you, before I was looking into CTDU, I didn't know what a U visa was. So I know that you offer help in applying for a U visa. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is and how you help?
Yeah. Normally, U visas have been used when individual experiences domestic violence in their home. And so they apply for VAWA. And so under that, then they qualify for a U visa most likely. And so, but what many people are not familiar is that U visas also apply to the workplace. So if a worker experiences either sexual harassment or any physical abuse or any physical damage, or even gets threatened by their employer that they're going to call immigration, lock them inside the building, which we've seen happen in the suburbs. If they experience any problems of that sort in the workplace, they have the opportunity to also receive a U visa. And so that's actually something that we've been trying to educate many workers that there's an opportunity for them to receive some temporary status if they have gone through that experience. Not every case is accepted, but it goes case by case.
So this is for people who, physical, mental abuse. Sometimes I think some of the fear is that I don't want to report it or I don't want to say something about it because I'm scared of what can potentially happen to me. So this gives them a little bit more security, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so let's get into a little bit more, also another tough topic right now. We have a new president that's coming in this year, and his opinions on immigration have been a bit polarizing, right? So you being on the front line, so to speak, and talking to people who are immigrants on potentially a daily basis, what have you seen? How have you seen them emotionally, and even how are they preparing for what's coming?
Yeah. Well, I think we side also, just to start off, we're a nonpartisan organization, and we don't support any particular candidate. However, we sided about 2 years ago with our current governor and the new administration, where many things started changing, and we started seeing some sentiment against, anti-sentiment against the immigrant community. And so what we also experienced since the elections, or even prior to the elections, is that there's been a great amount of fear instilled in the community. In particular, you would see the ads that were being posted by a lot of these candidates either running for presidential or even state or Congress. And it's unfortunate because what they started creating was, or they started intensifying this fear that many people have. And even more reason now why our job in particular when it comes to helping immigrant workers is more difficult, because we saw right at the day after the election results, we are currently doing some work in Calumet City with minimum wage. And so we're trying to get an increase to $15 in the city. And a lot of our leaders who have been supporting us in the past decided not to get involved, or are even now struggling to attend some of the city hall meetings because of that fear of what's going to happen to them if they actually challenge the system. And so what we also started hearing from some of our leaders, that in the high schools in our community, some of the teachers unfortunately have been saying some immigrant things or some racist things to some of these students. And so you have these students who have been in this country for several years and are contributing to this economy, many of them now feeling pressured in their school by their own teachers. And so we started seeing a lot of that, as well as we saw an emergence of a lot of people who are legal permanent residents trying to become citizens because they're afraid that they're going to be deported. Or we even started hearing when we did a walkout with Bowen High School in South Chicago, some of the African American students born in this country saying that they're afraid that they're going to be deported. So it's real fear that's actually happening, not just to one particular community, to everyone, unfortunately, because of everything that has emerged with the post and election results.
And you mentioned the walkout with Bowen High School, and I saw some information about that online. Why do you think it's important to get the young people involved in immigration issues and just activism in general?
Yeah. Well, I think we saw it in particular when President Obama ran for office the first time in 2008. So we saw the emergence of the youth, which was actually great, and their involvement. And I think the problem that we see a lot when it comes to immigration is that many people associate the Latino community as the immigrants, where if you actually look at the numbers, it's not just Latinos. There's Haitian immigrants in our community. There's Asians. There's a large group of other immigrants who are also part of this, society. But and so that's something that we're trying to also educate, and particular organization in the southeast side and the south suburbs is we're trying to outreach to non-Latino communities who are also feeling the effects of wage theft, the issues in the workplace, but are also feeling the effects of immigration, unfortunately.
And that's something important, that you mentioned, because the name of the organization, is Centro de Trabajadores Unidos, which is in Spanish, yes, but you don't just help people who are Hispanic. You help, the whole spectrum. And then just one more thing that I wanted to ask you is, in the topic of different immigrants from different places in the world, what is one of the most common errors or misconceptions that you've seen that immigrants have in the workplace?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of workers. So wage theft could range from several things. It could be you're not getting paid minimum wage. You're getting paid less. In the state of Illinois, it's $8.25. In the city of Chicago, at the moment, it's $10.50. And there's other suburbs in Calumet City that we're trying to increase it to $15. Or if you don't get paid overtime, if you don't get paid more than your 40 hours, time and a half. And so, as well as for construction workers in that industry, if you don't get paid for the time that you've worked. So those are considered wage theft. So the misconception is that because you don't have documents, because you don't have legal documents to be in the country or in working, that you're not entitled to get paid. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of the work that we try to do is educate the immigrant community that regardless of whether, you do not have papers, anyone who does work in the country of the United States is entitled to get paid. And so we have a lot of employers who threaten workers and say, you don't have papers, so we're not going to pay you. And unfortunately, many workers who do not know their rights or are afraid to challenge the employer stay quiet. And it's unfortunate because there was a study done by UIC. Nick Theodore was one of the researchers that he found that in just Cook County, $7.3 million are stolen every week in
Oh,
wages,
wow.
and so it's huge. So it's a
Yeah.
reality. And our organization, since we started the organization, we've been able to recover close to $1.5 million in stolen wages in the south side of Chicago and the south suburbs.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's something very important for those of you who are just learning about something like this and maybe find yourself in a position like that, have some questions that you want to ask. Can you give us your Facebook page? What your Facebook page is?
Yes, you can visit us on Facebook at Centro de Trabajadores Unidos. You can also visit us on our website at www.centrodetrabajadoresunidos.org.
Well, Anna, thank you so much for your time here. I know that we have another member of CTDU on, but I want to thank you very much for coming on and talking to us about this very important subject.
Thank you for having us.
So for those of you who are interested and have, again, some questions, I'm going to give you the information about Centro de Trabajadores Unidos. So the website is centrodetrabajadoresunidos.org, like Ana mentioned. The address is 9546 South Ewing, Chicago, Illinois 60617, and the phone number is 773-297-3370. And if you have a question that you'd like to send via email, the email is info@ctu-iwp.org. All right, so for those of you who are just tuning in, my name is Stephanie Rios, and I'm a staff member here. And now we have Ms. Brenda Rodriguez here from Centro de Trabajadores Unidos. Brenda, thank you so much for being here with us. Brenda, can you just give a brief description of what you do for the organization?
Yes, so I'm the Associate Director for Centro de Trabajadores Unidos.
Oh, okay, wonderful. And so as the Associate Director, can you talk to us a little bit about what you do for the organization, kind of maybe some of your functions there?
Yeah, so I oversee a lot of the programming, and I think oftentimes I see my role as like also an organizer. So it's making sure how we can better serve the immigrant community in the southeast side of Chicago, but also provide like staff support and little things here and there that need to be taken care of.
Nice. And I know that one of the things that you're involved in, one of the campaigns that you're involved in, is the CARE campaign. Can you tell me a little bit more about the CARE campaign?
Yeah, so the CARE campaign is a program where we promote and really uphold the good employers in the community. So oftentimes, right, like with small businesses, a lot of the wage theft that's happening in our community tends to be small businesses or companies that have been in the area, but there's also a few folks who have either worked as as employees in a certain company where they themselves experienced wage theft, and because of those experiences, they decided when they opened up their business that they didn't want to have those types of practices. So the CARE program is really to highlight those good employers in the community so that our community and our base can go out and support them. And that way we create, right, this agreement between community members and business owners who are standing like good by their workers and are making, they're paying them the minimum wage or above the minimum wage. They're following the laws as it stands within Illinois. And we want to make sure that those folks are highlighted. It's because when you're not paying your workers fairly, there's like an uneven playing field, right?
Of course. Yeah.
So this is our way to balance that out and promote folks who are doing good by their workers.
So essentially, it's on one side with all of the other programs that you have and services, you're educating the workers, right? So in this, it seems like you're also including the companies that they're working for, so everyone's educated about what.
Yes. What are the employment laws, like health and safety. And it's also right to like bridge together like the small business owners who have been workers or tend to be workers in other settings, right?
Okay.
Like it's not mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I would say you're absolutely right. It's dual education there.
And if there are any companies that want to join with the CARE campaign, how can they go about doing that?
They can contact us. They can call our number. They can also call me personally, and we can talk a little bit more about that agreement.
Okay.
So it's actually like an agreement that lays out like 20 different like line items of like what is a good employer. So it's a contract, a community contract. in that sense, and it's not, it's a way for them to be educated on what are like good standing items for the community.
And do you go out to the company to go talk about these things, or do they come to your offices?
So I feel like we've seen a mix of the two, but it's mostly us outreaching and talking to employers about joining us and signing this community agreement.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that campaign itself is something that I think is a great accomplishment and a great program that you have. Can you talk to us? We just finished up the year 2016, and can you talk about maybe some of the biggest accomplishments that you've seen or that you're most proud of for Centro de Trabajadores Unidos?
Yes, definitely. So I'm a fairly new member to the group, but since the inception, Centro de Trabajadores Unidos has, recovered like over 1.5 million wages of stolen wages. And I think that's a huge feat for the organization, especially like this is an immigrant-run grassroots organization that was started by community members in the Southeast side, who then it started with I don't know if you heard the story of how we started, but
I did, but you know what? Can you tell
Yeah,
our
for sure.
viewers here, because it's a really great story.
Yeah, so it was a group of workers that were working for a potato chip company in the area, and from one day to another, they were let go, and there was no follow-up, or the last paycheck, or even their pension benefits. None of that had been communicated. So the group got together and they organized, and they won, right? They were able to recover their last paycheck, and they were able to recover their benefits. But again, like I said, this was community members from the Southeast side who got together and decided they've had enough. That they want to continue, let themselves be taken advantage of.
So amazing. So very grassroots.
Yes.
And but an inspiration, because that often happens where we have a group of people who feel like they're not getting the support that they deserve, or just their rights in general. So the fact that the organization started from that group and has developed into what it is now is really amazing, which leads me to my next question. I did notice that you have some open positions. So am I safe to assume that the organization is growing?
Yes, so we're growing. A lot of the funding has been reinstated. So there's flows, right, that come with within this job. But yes, we're expanding. We're looking for awesome organizers who are interested in joining our team and learning how to organize, or who are interested in also building power within the southeast side of Chicago and the south suburbs. That's another area that we work in.
Wow.
We're specifically looking to fill the campaign organizer role and the citizenship coordinator / community organizer role within the organization.
So the information for those positions can be found on your website, right?
Yes.
So I'll go quickly to our overhead, so they can go to centrodetrabajadores.org. I also, in the next week or so, I'll have that information up on our channel 42. So make sure that you check it out and can keep abreast of whatever other positions that you have open on our channel 42, or again going to your website. Now, Brenda, can we talk about this coming year? What are some of the goals that you have, or some of the projects that you're working on for CTDU?
So we have a lot of events coming up. I think January is going to be jam-packed with events. But so one of the areas that we're looking to expand and dig a little deeper is our care program. So making sure that all of the businesses in the area are signed on to our community agreement, that they understand the law as it stands, but also if there's support that's needed, right, that we're there to also provide support to good employers who want to engage in fair labor standards and practices. And another area, a focus area, of course, I think we mentioned earlier, in the political climate that we have, is providing not only services, which involves legal or referrals, right? If there are other services that are needed by the immigrant community, but also really strengthening the power of the immigrant community on the southeast side. And, in the way that we've seen, right, with for folks who are eligible to apply for citizenship, that they exercise that right to apply for citizenship, and then exercise their right to engage civically and vote. So it's also creating a pipeline of building power within the community in that sense. Also a stronger focus on immigrant rights, on labor rights. And I think a big part of the work right now is there are a lot of issues where there's an intersection happening, whether it's you're an undocumented immigrant at the workplace, and there is a potential, there's always the threat of raids or the threat of like e-verify coming into the workplace. So we're really like looking to educate not only our top leaders and our membership, but also other community folks in the area, whether it's service providers, on like what does this look like? Because I think a lot of it is very, very obscure and vague, and it's not easy to understand how like these multiple issues intersect. So that's what we're here to do, is to demystify what this looks like, and for folks to know that they have rights on their workplace, they have rights when they're crossing the street, and suddenly they see like an ICE agent there, right? So that it's also educating our community and training our community to educate others.
Okay. And right now, talking about educating the community and letting people know, can you give us maybe just a few pointers or tips or things for people to look out for or people to be aware of in their workplace, or if you have information about if ICE comes to your home or school, what are some things that you can tell our viewers for them to look out for?
Yeah, definitely. So we actually provide a very extensive training on this. So I think my first recommendation is for folks is to come to the Know Your Rights training. And it's not just us that's holding a lot of these different trainings, but also other organizations. So it's to connect with us to really have like the full scope of what this looks like, in terms of like being prepared and what to look for. Because it does take like a level of preparedness for folks. But I think, just one of the common things that we're hearing is if you are a worker and ICE is at your workplace, is to talk ahead, like beforehand. Like this is something that could happen, right? So talk to your like coworkers about like what's going to happen if this is something, if ICE comes into our workplace. And I think it involves everybody being on the same page and not saying anything about where people are from, whether it's yourself or it's your coworker, and making sure you have the right to remain silent, right, when situations like that occur. If you hear from your employer that you get like a no-match letter, right, but you've worked there 15 years, right, like that's not right. And there's a lot more that goes into that, and it's very different case by case. But if you get that letter past the 3 days of employment, like that's not something that should be happening. And we often see that employers will use like no-match letters as a way to let people go, right, and like hire temporary workers. And it's a practice that we've seen, right? So these are the common tactics. But right, folks have the right to remain silent. They have the right to not give any information out. And if they're either detained walking down the park, right, they can say, I don't want to talk to you. Or even if they're in front of their house, like, I don't want to talk to you. And if for some reason the agent or the officer keeps asking questions, right, they have the right to say, like, am I free to go? Am I under arrest? Right, asking those questions. And I think this becomes crucial for folks whose first language is Spanish, right?
Yeah.
And like learning like sentences like that signal, right, like I know what are my rights. Other organizations use cards that folks can have on them at all times. They don't have to say anything, right? They just hand the card over to the officer. So, there's different ways to engage, but I would really recommend folks to come out to one of our Know Your Rights trainings or other trainings by other groups like ICIR or neighborhood organizations that are going to start doing a slew of these so that folks have like a full picture of what this looks like. This was just like small, right? But like there's more to this that we want our folks to know.
So do you have Know Your Rights workshop coming up anytime soon that you can tell the audience about?
We're planning on having a few. I don't have a set date right now, but I know we're going to have a few at the end of January. But they can give us a call at our number, which is 773-297-3370.
Okay.
And we'll follow up with folks who are interested.
Okay, wonderful. And then also, I'm assuming they can keep abreast of new information via your Facebook or social media. Can you give them that information as well?
Yes. So to follow us on Facebook is Centro Trabajadores Unidos, and up there we upload immediately any events that we have coming up. So that's probably the best way to contact us, or even to see what events are coming up in terms of Know Your Rights, or even just local fun events. And also our website, which is www.centrotrabajadoresunidos.org.
Wonderful. Well, Brenda, I really want to thank you for joining us today and helping us learn a little bit more about Centro de Trabajadores Unidos and the amazing work that you do. So again, I'm going to go to our overhead and just give the information one last time. Website, Centro de Trabajadores Unidos.org. The address is 9546 South Ewing, Chicago, Illinois 60617. Phone number is 773-297-3370. And the email is info@ctu-iwp.org. So thank you so much, Brenda. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, so just one last thing
yeah,
before we
absolutely.
go.
Yeah.
We have a fundraiser that's coming up January 23rd. And it's going to happen at Lagunitas Brewery at 5:30. So we invite everybody to come join us for a fun evening. You know, a lot of the folks that are joining us are like-minded folks. They care about immigrant rights and labor rights. We are having this fundraiser with another worker center, Latino Union.
Okay.
So yeah, definitely come out and support us.
Okay, absolutely, and make sure that you keep up on the new information via their Facebook page. Again, Brenda, thank you so much for joining us today, and those of you who are viewing today, thank you so much. My name is Stephanie Rios, and I'm a board member here, and you have a great day. Thank you so much.